Good morning, everyone. Last class we have seen about process synchronization. Is why we need a process synchronization. How process synchronization can be achieved. We saw about the producer-consumer problem. Then and reader writer's problem. Then we saw the critical section. What do you mean by critical section? What are the critical section problems? And what are the conditions need to be satisfied in critical section? So we had seen three conditions that to be satisfied in critical section. That is mutual exclusion, bounded waiting, and progress. And then we saw about classical problems of synchronization. That we saw about dining philosopher's problem, bounded buffer problem, and then we saw about the Peterson solution for these types of problem. In today's class, we will see a topic in first unit. It's a topic which we have left in the first unit. So we will cover this topic and we will end the first unit and second unit. And the next we will start the third unit. Okay. So in first unit, now we are going to see about the structures of operating system. Already we have seen the operating system structures. See, in operating system structure, we have seen how the operating system can perform. There is a multitasking environment, multi-programming, interactive system, then virtualization concept. All those we saw in the operating system structure. It is different, and this structures of operating system is different. The structures of operating system is nothing but we are having different programs in our operating system. First of all, operating system itself is a program. We are having different types of programs. How all these programs are structured in our operating system. There are different structures. We will see one by one. First, we will see the simple structure. See in this slide number 2, you all can see the simple structure. The simple structure, we are having the application program at the top, and below that we are having resident system programs. There is a system programs within our computer system, then device driver, and then at last below we are having our hardware. That is nothing but ROM memory and BIOS. BIOS means basic input output system and its corresponding device drivers. So all those hardware will be the underlying part in this structure. See here, these layers can access the other layers. See, this is a basic ROM and BIOS device driver is interfaced with device driver. Also, it is interfaced with resident system programs and application programs. Okay, this is resident system programs is again interfaced with device driver as well as ROM BIOS device driver, and then at last this application programs is interfaced with system programs and ROM BIOS device driver. See here, C means our user programs will be running in application programs. Okay, that is a top layer only will be having our user programs running in the system. See, this user programs then is directly interfaced to the ROM BIOS device driver. So ROM BIOS device driver is our hardware. Okay, this is our operating system core. So if a user program can access the operating system directly, then there may be some problem. I will say what is the problem may arise means if there is a failure or if there is an error in user program, then it will be directly affecting the device driver. That is our ROM BIOS system and all will be directly affected. Okay, so in this simple structure we are having that drawback. For that only we had dual mode of operation, that is kernel mode and user mode. In kernel mode we will be having the operation or the task performed by the OS, and in user mode that is a task done behalf of the user will be there. But here in the structure there is no such dual modes of operation. the user program can directly access the ROM by a device driver. Okay, so this is a disadvantage. If the user program has some error, then it will affect the operating system and the system will turn off. So there's a chance of system crashing. If there is an error or any failure in the system program, the system itself, the whole operating system and the computer system will get turned off. Okay. So this is a major disadvantage in simple structure. Then why we are having this simple structure means it is normally used in MS-DOS. You all know Microsoft Disk Operating System. In that we are using this simple structure. We use the simple structure when we are having a small amount of memory for the application programs, system programs, device driver. So for all these, if we have small amount of memory, we'll be using this simple structure. Okay. This is a basic structure. So with the it is associated with MS-DOS, the simple structure. Next, you will see monolithic kernel. Then comes the another operating system structure is monolithic kernel. In monolithic kernel, you can see at the top layer we are having the user. So in the user programs will be running. Below that we are having shells and commands, compilers and interpreters and system libraries. So you all know this commands. Command means which you are giving in command line interface. So in MS-DOS or in some other Unix, Linux and all, we'll be typing some commands in this command line interface. So that commands and shells. So what do you mean by shells means? It is a user interface. Shells is nothing but a user interface. Then compilers, interpreters and all we have already seen. Then system libraries. There is a libraries which are meant for the operation of the system. Will be stored in libraries is nothing but a collection of files. That files is a program. Okay, the collection of system programs only will be in this system libraries, and below that we will have a system call interface to kernel. Normally in dual mode of operation. Here in this monolithic kernel we have dual mode of operation, but in the previous structure, that is in simple structure, we don't have dual mode of operation. So only if there is a failure in user program, then the system will also gets failure and the system may crash. Here we are having dual mode of operation. So only we are having system call. So what is the system call? System call will act as an interface between user program and the operating system service. So here we are having a system call interface to the kernel. So in kernel we'll be having the functions of operating systems. See below that we are having signal, terminal handling, character input output system, terminal drivers, and then file system, swapping block input output system, disk and tape drivers. After that we are having CPU scheduling, page replacement, demand paging, virtual memory. So all these terms we will be seeing in the upcoming units. Okay, already we have seen CPU scheduling. In second unit we have seen CPU scheduling. Then this page replacement, demand paging, virtual memory. So all these comes under memory management. That is our third unit. Okay. So these things, page replacement, demand paging, virtual memory, all are used for memory management purpose. And then before that we are having file system and all will be with the file system interface. All those we will see in fourth unit. Know what all these terms are in this session. Okay, so because in the upcoming class we'll be seeing all those topics in detail. So all these functionalities of the operating system or the services of the operating system will be residing in the kernel. You can see in the left hand side, this kernel includes all these functionalities and the kernel interface to the hardware. Below we are having the hardware. In hardware we are having terminal controllers, terminals, and then device controllers, disk tapes, memory controllers, physical memory. So we have already seen a device controller. It is all the hardware in our computer system. Okay. So all these controller is a underlying hardware. So to use this underlying hardware. That is for making available the OS service, we need a system call. Because here we are having dual mode operation in monolithic kernel. Dual mode of operation means we are having user mode as well as kernel mode. Okay. A normal user program will be running in user mode when this user program need to access the system resources or it needs to perform any OS services, then a system call will be implemented. Through the system call only, this user program is made available to the OS services. So all those OS services are available in kernel. In monolithic kernel, we are having all those services packed in a one layer. See here we are having different layers. So in a particular layer itself, we are having, so in a single layer, we are having all the operating system packed. There is memory management, file system management, and device management. All those OS services are packed in a single layer in monolithic kernel. So it is packed in a single layer. So using system call, we can access the services, and then to access the hardware, we need the kernel interface. So here, there's if you see, if there is any failure in the user program, then that user program doesn't crash the system because the user program will be running in the user layer at the top. That is in user mode. So it can access the kernel resources or the OS services by means of system call. So there is no chance for system crashing. So system crash ஆகிறதுக்கு இந்த கேஸ் chances ரொம்ப கம்மி. But if you see means here we are having all the operating system packed in a single layer. So if you want to change any services, if you want to modify any services, that is while maintaining an operating system. So already I have said maintaining an operating system means it may include upgrading different versions. That is from Windows 7 to Windows 8, Windows 10. Like that, we have seen some upgradation. That is a maintaining of the operating system. That is removing the disadvantage in the current version and adding some additional features to the new version. So all this comes under maintaining or upgradation. Okay. So suppose if you want to change or if you want to add some mechanism in CPU scheduling, then the whole layer will be modified. So this change will be disturbing the other remaining OS services in the single layer. Okay. So there is a disadvantage this monolithic kernel also, because all those services are packed in a single layer. To change a particular OS services, that corresponding whole layer itself will need to get changed. So this is a disadvantage in monolithic kernel. This monolithic kernel is not only seen in a Unix operating system. In Unix operating system and all will be following this monolithic operating system structure. Next, we will see about layer structure. So layer structure, from the name itself, we can see in this diagram, we are having different layers. That is from layer 0, layer 1 up to layer n. The layer 0 will be the hardware. There is a hardware will be in the layer 0, and the top layer, there is a last layer. Layer n will be the user interface. So using that user interface, we can access the hardware which is inside, which is at the last layer, layer 0. So in between, we'll be having different layers. So in that layers only, we'll be having this CPU scheduling, page replacement, memory management services, device management services. All those services will be available. All those services will be available one by one in a different layers. Okay. So in this layer, if you see, there is any error in the user program. The user program will be running at the last layer by means of user interface. So if there is any error in the user program, then that user program won't affect the hardware, because here also by means of system call only this user program will access the kernel resources or operating system services. Okay. So there's any error in the user program, that particular user program only will be corrupted, not the whole operating system or the whole system will be crashed. Okay, so that drawback is cleared in this layer structure. But if you see here means we are having several layers. So in these several layers, in these several layers, the underlying layers only can be accessed. For example, if you're considering there is a layer we are having a memory management layer. So under this memory management layer, we should have our disk storage drivers and all. Okay. Then only this memory management layer will be accessing the disk storage layer. Okay. So a particular layer can access the services of the underlying layers. Likewise only we'll be having in this layer structure. For example, if you see a program in the user interface, some user program needs to access the computer hardware, then it had to cross all those layers. We are having several layers. For example, if you are having 10 layers, then the user program, the user interface need to cross all these 10 layers. For that, it needs to send some request, and that request should be accepted by that particular layer, and then only it can move to the next layer. Likewise, in each layer, the particular services will be asking request, and that request may be accepted or may not be accepted. So in this case, if you see means a user program processing will be delayed because it had to go from the top layer. If we are considering we are having 10 layers means from the 10th layer to the 0th layer to access the hardware. Okay. So there may be a delay in this layer structure. So this is a drawback of layered structure. So to overcome this drawback in this layer structure, we are having microkernel. So if you see microkernel means here we are having the underlying layer is our hardware, and above that we are having a microkernel. So from the name itself you can see this kernel is somewhat small in size. In monolithic kernel, we saw the kernel includes all the operating system packed in a single layer. Okay. So this kernel appears to be somewhat large in size in case of monolithic kernel. But if we see in microkernel means above that hardware we are having microkernel, which is small in size, and in user mode or in user space only we are having the client program. The client program may be the user program, and some other services are available in the user mode. This micro program, so this microkernel will include the essential services of the operating system only. The other services, there's a virtual memory, process server, file server, device drivers, all will be available in user mode in microkernel. Okay. So only this microkernel is small size because we are having the rest of the operating system services in the user mode. So you can see this client program as a user program. If the user program want to utilize this device driver or this file server, then it is communicated by means of message passing. I hope you all remember this message passing in cooperating process concept. So by means of message passing concept, these programs will be communicating with each other. Okay. So while communicating with each other by means of message passing, there may be some delay in communication. Okay. If the client program needs to access the process server, then it needs to communicate to it by means of the message passing mechanism. But our operating system kernel will be in the microkernel. So we need some communicating mechanism that may lead to some delay in the communication process. Okay, it may lead to the performance degradation. That efficiency may be degraded to some extent in this microkernel. But if you see, if there is any error in the user program, then it doesn't crash the system, because this user program will be running in user mode. That is, in the client program, we'll be having the user program. Okay. There's error in this client program, then that client program only will be aborted, not the rest of the microkernel or rest of the services will be aborted. Only that part will be aborted. So it is a advantageous one. But due to the message passing mechanism between these different services in the user mode, and to communicate with the microkernel, there may be a delay in this microkernel. So here in this microkernel also, we have some disadvantage. To overcome this disadvantage in microkernel, we are going for module structure. So modules. I hope in C++ and all, we might have heard about the object-oriented programming. It has modularity in the programming concept and all. The same way, this modules is also using the object-oriented concept. Okay. See, in this structure, you can see at the center we are having core kernel. Core kernel is the operating system kernel. So to access this core kernel, the OS will be in kernel mode. Around that, we are having several modules of operating system services. See, we'll be having the file systems and system calls, executable formats, stream modules, some other modules, and the device and bus drivers, then scheduling classes. That is for CPU scheduling purposes. So all these operating system services will be available as modules in the module OS structure, and all those modules will be connected to the core kernel. Okay. For example, if the user program is running in any one module, if that fails, means only that part of the user program is corrupted, not the whole system will be crashed. Okay. So it is an advantage of module operating system structure. And then if you see the communication time, here the scheduling needs to access the file system, then it can send the signal from the scheduling class module to the kernel, and then that signal will be sent to the file system. Okay. So here there is not much that much time consumed in this module OS structure compared to the previous microkernel or a layered structure or monolithic kernel. Okay. So compared to the other OS structure, these modules consume a less amount of time in communication between the different operating system services. Okay. So this module structure is generally preferred one. So now in modern computer system, we are using this modules operating system structure. Okay. So we have seen different OS structures. So what are they? First we saw the simple structure. So in this simply we are having different levels of programs, and it can be communicated with each other. So there may be a error in user program may lead to the system crash. So it is a major disadvantage in the simple structure, and it is used in MS-DOS application because it has some small storage. So we are using this simple structure. Next we saw about monolithic kernel. Then the disadvantage of it is overcome in layer structure. Then we saw the microkernels. Next, at last, we saw the modules. And this modules is the operating system structures which is currently in use. Okay. So this is the topic which I have left in the first unit. This is the operating system structure. Okay. So with this, we have completed the first unit as well as the second unit. In second unit, what are the topics we have seen? We have seen about what do you mean by process, what do you mean by program, then how process synchronization can be achieved. For that, we have seen the critical section problem, and then classical problems of synchronization, semaphores, Peterson solutions, and then we saw about threads, multi-threading, hyper-threading, then we saw about deadlock and some algorithm. There is Banker's algorithm and resource allocation graph and all we saw. Then we saw about the CPU scheduling mechanism, how the process will be scheduled in the computer system by different scheduling algorithms. We have seen this first come first serve algorithm, shortest job first algorithm, shortest remaining time first algorithm, priority scheduling, preemptive type as well as the non-preemptive type. And then at last we saw about the round robin with the arrival time and without arrival time. Both the cases we have discussed. So with this we have ended the second unit also. Next we will start the third unit. The third unit is memory management. So in the first unit itself, we have seen some memory storage devices. So what are the types of memory will be available in our computer system? Generally, we'll be having main memory and a disk storage. This main memory is a primary memory and an additional secondary storage we'll be having, and we'll be having a cache memory is closer to the CPU processor core. We'll be having a cache memory. So all those things we saw in the first unit. So in this unit 3, we will see some techniques involved in memory management. Okay, why we need this much importance to this memory management? Because we have already seen in operating system we are going to run several processes. All these process is nothing but a program in execution. So all these program need to be in memory before execution. So how this memory is allocated to different programs in our computer system? Because if the memory increases, memory size increases means cost also will increase. So we have to use the memory in an efficient manner. So normally while purchasing a laptop or a mobile phone, you will see the specification. What is the capacity of the RAM, or what is the external storage can be used. Like that you will be seeing while purchasing a laptop or a mobile phone and all. So you need higher memory so that our system will be functioning efficiently. Or with that small amount of memory, how the system may be functioning efficiently. So all those we'll be seeing with this memory management concept. Okay. So I have already said so in memory, if you see means we'll be having different datas. So in memory, we'll be having program as well as data. So all these memory will be located in different addresses. So நம்ம எல்லாரும் ஸ்ட்ரீட்ல ஒவ்வொரு ஹவுஸ்க்கும் இப்படி ஒரு டோர் நம்பர் இருக்கு. ஸோ அதே மாதிரி மெமரியில ஒவ்வொரு மெமரி லொகேஷனுக்கும் தேர் வில் பி அ மெமரி அட்ரஸ். ஓகே. ஸோ மெமரியில நம்ம ஏதாவது ஒரு கண்டென்ட்டை ஸ்டோர் பண்ண போறோம். ஸோ அந்த கண்டென்ட்டுக்கு என்ன இருக்கும்? ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் அட்ரஸ் இருக்கும். Okay, this memory and all you'll be seeing much more detail in this microprocessor and micro controller. In that and all, in your microprocessor and microcontroller lab and all, you'll be typing the codes. You have already seen C and C++ programming language. Here you'll be seeing in microprocessor and microcontroller, you'll be learning a new language, that is assembly level language programming with respect to the processor, 8085 processor or 8086 microprocessor and all. You'll be seeing in your lab and all, you'll be entering the assembly language code in the microprocessor kit at a particular memory location. You can see that memory location, and for each memory location you'll be entering some codes. Okay, but if you see in your C or C programming, simply you'll be typing some set of instructions. That instructions will be like printf, welcome, or scanf something and all. So all those will be residing in the memory. Okay. This operating system itself is a program. So that program itself is first of all in memory. So நீங்க நார்மலா ஒரு CPU நீங்க ஒரு கம்ப்யூட்டர் சிஸ்டம் பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்றீங்கன்னா, ஸோ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க? OS வந்து இன்ஸ்டால் பண்ணுவீங்க. ஸோ OS இன்ஸ்டால் பண்றீங்க. ஸோ அப்பதான் OS இன்ஸ்டால் பண்றீங்கன்னா that OS is loaded into the system memory. ஓகே. ஸோ அதான் நீங்க வந்து OS இன்ஸ்டால் பண்றீங்க. அதே மாதிரி வேற எந்த ஒரு அப்ளிகேஷன்ஸ், ஒரு ஆப்பா இருக்கட்டும் இல்ல சாஃப்ட்வேர்ஸா இருக்கட்டும், எல்லாத்தையும் என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க? இன்ஸ்டால் பண்ணுவீங்க. That application program and all need to be stored in memory before execution. So எல்லாத்தையும் நம்ம என்னதான் பண்றோம்? மெமரியில போய் ஸ்டோர் தான் நம்ம பண்ண போறோம். ஓகே. ஸோ மெமரியை வந்து எப்படி நம்ம இருக்கும், ஸோ அதை பத்தி தான் நம்ம இங்க பார்க்க போறோம். So block of memory will be there, and each and every memory location will have its own memory address. So எப்படி ஒவ்வொரு ஹவுஸ்க்கு ஒரு டோர் நம்பர் or some address இருக்கோ அதே மாதிரி all these memory will be having a particular memory address. Okay. Okay, first in this unit we will see address binding. So we have already said before executing a program, the program should be brought into memory for execution. Okay, and that program will be in the input queue. There is in job scheduling or in CPU scheduling and all, we have seen the program which is ready for execution will be in the queue. That is waiting for execution in the CPU. So that is nothing but here we have given as input queue. Okay. So the program on the disk which is ready to execute will be in the queue. So we have already seen having two memory, main memory and secondary memory. So main memory will be of smaller capacity. So only we are preferring secondary storage. So all the programs in the system will be residing in our secondary storage. The secondary storage can also known as a backing store or a disk storage. Normally the secondary storage will be a disk storage or backing store. We'll be saying it as backing store or disk storage. The main memory will be having our RAM or flash memory. Like that we'll be having our main memory. Okay. So in job scheduling, we have seen from the disk storage or from the secondary storage, what are the jobs which are ready for executing alone will be brought to the main memory for execution. So previously we have seen with an example 512 MB. So if we are having 512 MB in our main memory, as for example I am saying, then that process which has that 512 MB only can be kept in that job scheduling. We can have several process in the main memory. Okay. But within that capacity only we can keep. So where the rest of the programs will be there, all the rest of the programs will be in the disk storage. That is our secondary memory. Okay. So we are going to see in this address binding how this address is calculated. Okay. This address is represented in different ways at different stages of program's life. So if you see a program means there will be different stages of a program. See in this slide number 9, you can see the multi-step processing of a user program. For example, from the top we will see we are having our source program. We are having our source program. Here you can assume simply a C program which you are typing in a turbo C like that you can assume. The source program is a program which you have written in any language. Here you can consider a simple C program. Okay. So you're having a source program and then you'll be compiling it. So after writing a program, you'll be compiling. So that compilation is done by compiler or assembler. So compiler means it converts the program written in C or C++, that is in higher level language, into machine language. While converting so, it finds what are the errors available in the program. And also we are having one more programming tool, assembler. What this assembler will do? This assembler will convert the program written in assembly level language into machine level language. Okay. So the time taken for the program to be in a compiler or assembler is known as compilation time. Okay. So once we are having a source program. So I said you are writing a program in C language. So what will be the extension? It will be .c. So you're having a .c file. So after compiling, we'll be getting a object module. So that you might have seen some files with extension .obj. That is the object file. So after compiling the source program, you will be obtaining the object file or object module. Okay. So now you have compiled only the program. For example, you have written a C program for adding two numbers. For that you will be using printf, scanf and all. All those will be in some library files, stdio.h, and then this and you may also including some other library files in your program. So all those library files should also be included. So you will be writing hash include and the library files. So all those library files should also be included. So that is done by linkage editor. So this linkage editor will be using some other modules, or in some cases a program will be calling, okay, a function in one program will be calling another function in another program. So that some other function in another program will be linked in this linkage editor. That is only here mentioned as other object modules. Other object modules means for this addition program you need some data, and that same data is available for subtraction program. So you may obtain some data from the subtraction program, but these two programs are written separately. Okay, so the object module for that subtraction program will be obtained from that linkage editor. Okay, so these other object modules will be included into our program by means of this linkage editor, and then it will be loaded and will be obtaining our load module. Okay, and some other system libraries. So here in this stage only we'll be adding the standard input output library files. So all the system library files will be loaded by means of loader. So all these time duration is known as load time. So the time what we need for adding the other object modules, that is the modules from some other program will be added, or the system libraries will be added by the loader. These all done in the load time. Okay, and at last there may be a chance for adding the dynamically loaded system libraries. That is, while executing a program only, based on your input only, some part of the program will be running in some cases. If you are writing a long program, so if a particular condition satisfies only, we will be calling a particular function. If that particular condition dissatisfies or it becomes false, we will be calling some other function. Okay. So that and all will be done dynamically during the runtime. So நீங்க ஒரு ப்ரோக்ராம் எழுதிருக்கீங்க, அந்த ப்ரோக்ராம் வந்து இன்புட் டேட்டா எப்ப கெட் பண்ணும், ரன் பண்ணும்போது தான் உங்களுக்கு கெட் பண்ணும். ரன் பண்ணிட்டு அது உங்க ஸ்கிரீன்ல நீங்க இன்புட் டேட்டா கொடுத்ததை வச்சுதான் இந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் சூஸ் பண்ணுமா, இந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் சூஸ் பண்ணணுமா, இந்த மாதிரி கேசஸ் இருக்கு. ஸோ அதெல்லாம் எப்போ இருக்கும், எக்ஸிகியூஷன் டைம்ல. ப்ரோக்ராம் எக்ஸிக்யூட் ஆகும் போது தான் நீங்க டிசைட் பண்ணுவீங்க. நீங்க கொடுக்குற இன்புட் வச்சுதான் இந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் ரன் ஆகணுமா இல்ல இந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் ரன் ஆகணுமான்னு இருக்கும். ஓகே, திஸ் இஸ் டன் டியூரிங் த எக்ஸிகியூஷன் டைம் ஆர் ரன் டைம். So during that time also some system library files will be loaded dynamically. Dynamically we are saying it as means because it is loaded only at the execution time. So some programs may be loaded or may not be loaded. Okay, so some functions நீங்க கொடுக்கிற இன்புட் வச்சு தான் அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் ரன் ஆகணுமா டிசைட் ஆகும். Some functions may be written in our program but it may not happen at all. ஏன்னா அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் கால் வந்து ஏதாவது ஒரு கண்டிஷன் சாட்டிஸ்ஃபை ஆச்சுன்னா இந்த ஃபங்க்ஷனை கால் பண்ணணும், அந்த மாதிரி நம்ம எழுதியிருப்போம் ப்ரோக்ராம்ல. அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் கண்டிஷன் சாட்டிஸ்ஃபை ஆகவே இல்லை, அப்போ அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் என்ன ஆகும், ரன் ஆகவே ஆகாது. அந்த கண்டிஷன் சாட்டிஸ்ஃபை ஆச்சுன்னா அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் ரன் ஆகும், இல்ல ரன் ஆகாது. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி உள்ள ஃபங்க்ஷன்ஸ் எல்லாமே எப்போ ரன் டைம்ல ஆர் எக்ஸிகியூஷன் டைம்ல தான் லோட் ஆகும். That particular function may sometimes need a set of system libraries. So அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன்ல ஏதோ ஒரு சிஸ்டம் லைப்ரரிஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கலாம். For accessing the string files you may include string header file. So அந்த மாதிரி files எல்லாமே எப்போதான் ஆட் ஆகும், during the execution time. That is only here we have set dynamically loaded system libraries, and that concept is known as dynamic linking. Okay, dynamic means at the execution time the system libraries which are added, okay, that is done by dynamic linking. Okay, so here we are having this multiple step of a user program. So simple C program which you are running or which you are writing will undergo all these stages. There is a compilation time, then loading time, then execution time. So at these stages, you're writing a particular program and that program will be in a memory in a particular location. So during this compile time, load time or execution time, that memory address may change. Okay. How that memory address is going to change only, we'll be seeing in this address binding. ஓகே சோ நம்ம ஒரு ப்ரோக்ராம் ஒரு சோர்ஸ் ப்ரோக்ராம் நம்ம எழுதியிருந்தோம்னா அது ஃபர்ஸ்ட் நம்ம கம்பைல் பண்ணும்போது என்ன ஆகுது ஆப்ஜெக்ட் மாடியூல் கிரியேட் ஆகுது அந்த ஆப்ஜெக்ட் மாடியூலுக்குள்ள some other object modules add பண்றோம் that is some other functions from some other program will be added by means of this linkage editor and then while adding it we'll be obtaining the load module and then this loader will be including the system libraries necessary for our source program. So some other header files might have included. So all those system libraries will be included by the loader. Then during the runtime some library files may be loaded. Okay. So all these will be happening in our user program. So அதான் நம்ம என்ன சொல்றோம்னா சோ ஒரு பர்టిక్యులர் ப்ரோக்ராம் சோர்ஸ் ப்ரோக்ராம் நம்ம எழுதுறோம் சோ அது வந்து ஒரு அட்ரஸ் லொகேஷன்ல ஸ்டோர் பண்ணிருக்கோம் சோ அப்ப கம்பைல் பண்றோம் லோட் பண்றோம் எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்றோம் சோ அப்போ அந்த ப்ரோக்ராமோட லொகேஷன் வேரி ஆகும் சோ அதான் நம்ம வந்து அட்ரஸ் பைண்டிங் சோ இது எப்படி வேரி ஆகுதுன்னு நம்ம பார்க்கறோம் ஓகே so only address is represented in different ways at different stages of program's life so ஒரு program ஒன்னு எழுதிட்டோம்னா that should cross all these stages. Okay, the source code addresses will be usually represented in symbolic representation. While compiling, you'll be binding some relocatable address. Okay, நம்ம source code நம்ம எழுதுறோம்னா ஒரு symbolic address தான் இருக்கும். நம்ம அதை compile பண்ணும்போது என்ன ஆகும்னா ஆல்ரெடி அந்த compilation பண்ணும்போது உள்ள program ஓட நம்ம ஆட் பண்றோம். So that is already ஒரு 14 bytesல ஒரு program இருக்கு. So அதோட இப்போ நம்ம compile பண்றத நம்ம வந்து அந்த கம்பைலேஷன்ல போய் ஆட் ஆகுது சோ அப்போ என்ன ஆகும் that 14 plus this memory location புரியுதா here 14 bytes so I am considering in this case each memory location is of 14 bytes I am considering அதாவது ஒவ்வொரு memory locationலயும் ஒவ்வொரு byte இருக்கும் மாதிரி நம்ம கன்சிடர் பண்றேன் ஓகேவா சோ நம்ம கம்பைல் பண்ணும்போது ஒரு relocatable address to some other address it is relocated for example ஒரு 14 bytes அப்புறம் இது இருக்கிற மாதிரி நான் கன்சிடர் பண்றேன் ஏன்னா அந்த 14 bytesல ஆல்ரெடி some other program இருக்கறனால அந்த 14 bytes அப்புறம் தான் எது வருது இப்போ நம்ம எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ற program இருக்கு okay that is 14 bytes from beginning of this module then நம்ம என்ன பண்றோம் linkage editor and loader பண்றோமா so that will leads to so in the relocatable address la irundhu that will generate absolute address so this absolute address means already after 14 bytes nu kuduthirkom so இந்த absolute address la enna agumna for example 74000 அதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் இந்த 14 bytes அதுக்கு அப்புறம் இந்த program add ஆகணும் so 74000 plus 14 plus this address location okay likewise we'll be having different address binding that is ஒரு அட்ரஸ்ல நம்ம ப்ரோக்ராம் எழுதி இருப்போம் சோ அது சோர்ஸ் கோடா இருக்கும்போது ஒரு அட்ரஸ் லொகேஷன் இருக்கும் கம்பைல் பண்ணும்போது இன்னொரு அட்ரஸ் லொகேஷன் இருக்கும் லிங்கேஜ் ஆர் லோடர் பண்ணும்போது இன்னொரு அட்ரஸ் லொகேஷன்ல இருக்கும் சோ இந்த மாதிரி each binding will maps to one address space to another சோ இத பைண்ட் பண்றோம் ஒவ்வொரு அட்ரஸ் வேல்யூவை நம்ம பைண்ட் பண்றோம் பட் இந்த ஒவ்வொரு அட்ரஸும் என்ன ஆகும் மேப் பண்ணும் சோ நம்ம compile time la ஒரு address இருந்தனா that is mapped to load time address that is only mapped to execution time address okay so இந்த மாதிரி எப்படி அட்ரஸ்லாம் நம்ம வந்து சேஞ்ச் பண்ணிட்டு வரோம் நம்ம டீடைலா இதல பார்க்கலாம் so it is just an introduction this is what we are going to see in this unit it's just an introduction we'll be seeing it more detail so I hope you'll be having a better understanding for the slide okay ஸோ இப்போ ஒரு ப்ரோக்ராம் எப்படி டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஸ்டேஜஸ் கிராஸ் பண்ணுது, அதில் எப்படி அட்ரஸ்லாம் வேரி ஆகுதுன்னு நம்ம பார்த்தோம். ஓகே, இட்ஸ் ஜஸ்ட் அன் இன்ட்ரடக்ஷன். Next, before seeing about this memory management and address and all, we are having two types of address in our computer system. So one is logical address, another one is physical address. Okay. So physical address is the actual address. So we'll see. So logical address means it is the address generated by the CPU. Okay. நம்ம ஒரு program வந்து எழுதியிருக்கோம். So அந்த programக்கு CPU generate பண்ற address தான் physical address. Sorry, logical address. This logical address is also known as virtual address. Physical address means it is the address seen by the memory unit. So this physical address only is the actual address. Okay. ஒரு 1 GB memory இருக்குன்னா அந்த 1 GB actual address represent பண்றது யாரு? Physical address. Logical addressனா அந்த 1 GB வந்து நம்ம எப்படி logically நம்ம assume பண்ணி will be assuming it as 4 GB in some other case. So அந்த மாதிரி logically assume பண்ணும்போது we are obtaining another one address that is generated by CPU. It is known as logical address or virtual address. Okay. In the address name வந்து logical address, virtual address, and the set of logical addresses and the set of physical addresses will be named as address space. So logical address is nothing but the set of logical address generated by the CPU or by the program. It is a logical address space. Physical address space means it is a set of physical address generated by the program that is seen in the memory unit. This is the physical address space. Okay. So we are having two types of address. One is logical address, another one is physical address. Next we will see. So for seeing this address binding and address calculation and all, you see the basic registers, base register and limit register. We are having two registers for doing this address calculation. One is base register, another one is limit register. So நம்ம என்ன சொன்னோம் previously பார்த்ததுல, while a process is creating, that process will have its own memory. So in this slide we are seeing a figure where there's an operating system, and below the operating system we are having several processes, and each and every processor will be allocated its own memory. For example, say the first process is residing in the memory from 25600 to 30040, and the second process is residing in the memory location from 30040 to 420940. And these, so in the 25600 30040 இதெல்லாம் தான் என்னது memory address. Okay, இந்த மாதிரி இருக்கா, இதுதான் என்னது memory address ன்னு சொல்றோம். So ஒரு ப்ராசஸோட மெமரி வந்து இந்த லொகேஷன்ல இருந்து இந்த லொகேஷன் வரைக்கும் இருக்கு. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி ஆல்ரெடி என்ன பண்ணுவோம், CPU வந்து ஒவ்வொரு ப்ராசஸ்க்கும் மெமரி அலோகேட் பண்ணியிருப்பாங்க. ஸோ ஒவ்வொரு ப்ராசஸ் வில் ஹேவ் இட்ஸ் ஓன் பேஸ் ரெஜிஸ்டர் அண்ட் லிமிட் ரெஜிஸ்டர். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இங்க செகண்ட் உள்ள ப்ராசஸ் இருக்கா, அதுல வந்து பேஸ் ரெஜிஸ்டர் என்னன்னா, ஸோ இந்த ப்ராசஸோட மெமரி எந்த லொகேஷன்ல இருந்து ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகுது, there is a starting address of this particular process will be in base register. So what do you mean by register? Register is a collection of flip-flops. It is a set of flip-flops. Okay. So base register என்ன இருக்கும், starting address of the process. The process P2. For example, இந்த second process எங்க start ஆகுது 30040. So அந்த starting address எதுல இருக்கு, base register. See, that is represented in this figure. Okay. And the ending address of this particular process is 42940. So limit register என்ன இருக்குன்னா, the length of the process. Length of the process will be in the limit register. The starting address of the process will be in base register. The length of the process will be in limit register. Okay. So 30040 அந்த லொகேஷன்ல இருந்து அதோட length எவ்வளவு ஆட் பண்ணா இந்த லாஸ்ட் அட்ரஸ் 42940 இருக்கும். அந்த லென்த் தான் என்னது, இங்க ஸ்பெசிஃபை பண்ணிருக்க லென்த் 120900. So that is the length of this second process. So that is available in the limit register. Okay. So I hope now you all know What is a base register and limit register? Base register holds the starting address of the process. Limit register holds the length of that particular process. Okay. So here, so each and every process will be allocated a memory. So ஒரு process ஓட டேட்டாவை வேற எந்த ப்ராசஸ்ல போய் ஸ்டோர் பண்ணக்கூடாது. ஸோ அப்படி ஸ்டோர் பண்ண என்ன ஆகும், இன்னொரு ப்ராசஸ் அந்த டேட்டாவை யூஸ் பண்ணும், அதை சேஞ்ச் பண்ணும். ஸோ அப்போ அந்த ப்ராசஸோட டேட்டா லாஸ் ஆகும். ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி கண்டிஷன் இருக்கா. ஸோ அப்போ ஒரு ப்ராசஸ் ரன் ஆகும் போது அந்த ப்ராசஸ் அதோட கரஸ்பாண்டிங் மெமரி லொகேஷனுக்குள்ள தான் ரன் ஆகணும். ஸோ அதை ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்றதுக்கு தான் we are having its own base register and limit register. ஸோ ஒரு ப்ராசஸ் அதோட லிமிட் அதோட மெமரி லொகேஷன் சைஸ்க்குள்ள தான் ரன் ஆகணும், மற்றதுல ரன் ஆகக்கூடாது. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு லிமிட் இருக்கா. ஸோ தட் இஸ் ஒன்லி டிட்டர்மைன்ட் பை மீன்ஸ் ஆஃப் பேஸ் அண்ட் லிமிட் ரெஜிஸ்டர். ஸோ அது இல்லாம இன்னொரு ப்ராசஸ் இன்னொரு லொகேஷன் உள்ள டேட்டா there is a process is accessing data in another process memory means it is an error. Okay, அது ஒரு error condition. So அப்படியே access பண்ண கூடாது. So அதை எப்படி protect பண்றாங்க? See here in the slide number 12 you can see the hardware address protection. How this address? So for each and every process we are having a particular address space. Address space is nothing but a collection of address. So ஒரு process ஓட address இவ்வளவுதான். அந்த process வேற எந்த ஒரு process ஓட அட்ரஸை யூஸ் பண்ண கூடாது. ஸோ அப்படி யூஸ் பண்ணோம்னா அது வந்து ஒரு எரர்னு கன்சிடர் பண்ணிக்கிறாங்க. ஓகே, ஸோ தட் இஸ் ஸோ எப்படி நம்ம அதை வந்து ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்றோம்னு இந்த எக்ஸாம்பிள் இந்த ஸ்லைட் நம்பர் 12 we can see by means of flow chart. See from the left we can see here we are having CPU. Left side ல இருந்து பாருங்க, the CPU, from that CPU we are having a address. The CPU is generating an address. So that address may be a for a particular process. For example, P1 ஓட ப்ராசஸ்ல ரன் ஆற ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட் ஓட P1 ப்ராசஸ் ஓட ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட் ஏதாவது ஒன்று ரன் ஆகலாம். அப்படி ரன் ஆகும் போது அந்த CPU என்ன பண்ணணும், அதோட அட்ரஸ் வந்து அலோகேட் பண்ணணும். ஸோ CPU ஜென்ரேட் பண்ற அட்ரஸ் வந்து என்னது, logical address. The address generated by the CPU is known as logical address. So here first of all logical address is generated. Okay, that is marked as address here. So இந்த logical address வந்து P1 ப்ராசஸ் ஓடது. P1 ப்ராசஸ் ஓட டேட்டா ஏதாவது ஒண்ணு வந்து ரன் பண்றோம், இல்ல ஏதாவது ஒரு ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்டை ரன் பண்றோம். ஸோ அப்போ அதோட அட்ரஸ் தானே. ஸோ அப்போ இந்த பேஸ் ரெஜிஸ்டர் கூட கம்பேர் பண்ண போறோம். ஸோ பேஸ் ரெஜிஸ்டர்ல நம்மளுக்கு என்ன இருக்கும், ஸ்டார்டிங் அட்ரஸ் இருக்கும். ஸோ அந்த அட்ரஸ் ஜென்ரேட் ஆன உடனே வில் பி செக்கிங் a condition whether this address is greater than or equal to the base address. ஸோ P1 ப்ராசஸ் ஓடதுன்னா அந்த P1 ஓட base address. For example, I am saying the base address of this P1 is 1000. The P1 process வந்து 1000 to 2000 லொகேஷன்ல இருக்கு. So இந்த 1000 விட அதிகமா இருக்கா நம்ம ஜெனரேட் பண்ண அட்ரஸ் நம்ம செக் பண்ணோம். First of all, first that condition is checked. If it is greater means no problem, we can go to the next condition checking. The next condition checking என்ன இருக்கு, base plus limit register. So base plus limit register means base register holds the starting address of the process, limit register holds the length of that process. Okay, and the process oda size தான் எதுல இருக்கும், limit registerல. So அப்போ அந்த process oda ending address can be found by adding the starting address and the length. அத ரெண்டையும் ஆட் பண்ணனும் என்ன கிடைக்கும், the ending address of the particular process. Okay, so base plus limit register கம்பேர் பண்றோம். ஸோ இப்போ ஜென்ரேட் பண்ற அட்ரஸ் ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் 1200 இருக்கு. நம்ம ப்ராசஸ் P1 ஓட அட்ரஸ் லொகேஷன் என்ன சொல்லியிருக்கேன், 1000 to 1200. ஸோ CPU ஜென்ரேட் பண்ற அட்ரஸ் 1200. ஸோ 1200 இருக்கும் போது நம்ம ஃபர்ஸ்ட் எதோட கம்பேர் பண்ணுவோம், பேஸ் ரெஜிஸ்டரோட. பேஸ் ரெஜிஸ்டர்ல என்ன வேல்யூ இருக்கு, 1000 இருக்கு. ஸோ we are checking the condition is 1200 is greater than or equal to 1000. So this condition satisfies. So it becomes yes. Then we are going for next condition checking. Okay, that is we are going to check that value it is less than or less than this base plus limit register. So inga 1000 வந்து base register இருக்கும், limit register. Limit register means it is the size of that process. So 1000 க்கு 2000 க்கு உள்ள size பார்த்தோம்னா என்ன வரும், another 1000. Okay, so limit register எப்படி தான் இருக்கும், 1000 only becomes 2000. So base register content is also 1000 and limit register content is also 1000 in this case, I am saying. So in this case, I am saying, so 1000 to 2000 is the memory allocated for a particular process, say P1. So the base register is a starting address location, that is 1000. Limit register is the length. So 1000 to 2000. So what is the length of the particular process? It is 1000. Okay. The 1000 is value stored in limit register. So next we are checking the condition. This 1000 plus 1000 is less than, நம்ம செக் பண்ணணும். So நம்ம ஜெனரேட் பண்ற அட்ரஸ் என்னது 1200. So this 1200 is less than 1000 plus 1000 means 2000. So 1200 is less than 2000 நம்ம கண்டிஷன் செக் பண்றோம். இந்த கண்டிஷன் satisfy ஆச்சு. Because 1200 is less than 2000. Then this can access that memory. So அந்த மெமரியில போய் என்ன பண்ணலாம், அந்த process P1 can access. ஏன்னா அந்த P1 ஓட அட்ரஸ் லொகேஷனுக்குள்ள தான் அந்த மெமரி இருக்கு, அந்த அட்ரஸ் லொகேஷன் இருக்கு. ஓகே. சோ நம்ம CPU ஜெனரேட் பண்ற அட்ரஸ் வந்து அந்த ப்ராசஸோட மெமரிக்குள்ள இருக்கா இல்லையா அந்த மாதிரி கண்டுபிடிக்கிறதுக்கு தான் we are having this hardware address protection mechanism. The help of base register and limit register, we are having this one. Okay. So some other example I'm saying. So the address வந்து எப்படி இருக்குன்னா, so same process P1 க்கு தான் நான் பார்க்கிறேன். P1 process starts from 1000 location to 2000 location. For example, the address generated by the CPU is 500. So I am checking the first condition. The address 500 is greater than equal to base register content will be 1000. So 500 greater than or equal to 1000, the condition false. So the condition dissatisfy ஆச்சுன்னா what will happen? Trap to the operating system. There is an addressing error. Okay. Snap is nothing but an interrupt. So interrupt normally நம்ம எதுக்காக யூஸ் பண்ணுவோம்னா to manage that error appearing in our operating system. We'll be using this interrupt and all. So here we are having an addressing error. What addressing error? This address 500 doesn't belongs to the process P1. So it is an addressing error. So இந்த மாதிரி addressing error generate ஆகும். For example, I am considering another one address. So for the same process P1 residing in the memory location from 1000 to 2000, I'm saying the CPU generated an address 2200. First it will be checking the condition whether this 2200 is greater than equal to base register content. That is 1000. 2200 is greater than or equal to 1000. So this condition satisfy means next it will check the another one condition, base plus limit register. So what is that value? Base plus limit 2000. So this 2200 is less than 2000. The condition will be checked. The condition becomes false. The condition false means it is an addressing error. So it will generate a trap. Trap is nothing but a interrupt to the operating system saying that some error has occurred in the system. Okay. So like this, we'll be seeing whether the address generated by the CPU is meant for that particular process or not. If it is meant for the particular process only, it is allowed to access that memory, that is either reading or writing. It is not meant to that, means it will generate an error. That is, a trap will be generated. Okay. This is how we are having memory protection. Okay. So this, so here we have seen this address generated by CPU and the address seen in the memory. So the address seen by the CPU is a logical address and it will be converted into the physical address that is seen by the memory unit. That conversion of logical address to physical address is done by memory management unit. For that we are having memory management unit in our computer system. So it is a hardware device. Okay. This hardware device only maps or converts this logical address is also known as virtual address. Okay. This virtual address into physical address. So if you're seeing a user program, so user will be having a user program. This user program will deals with this logical address because the user program is written by the user. So this user program will be given to the CPU. The CPU will generate logical address. So this user program deals with logical address, but it never see the real physical address. The physical address only is the real address. That real physical address won't be seen by the user program. Okay, that is seen at the execution time. We have seen three different times that program needs to cross. First one is compilation time, another one is load time, another one is execution time. See, already in this figure shown in the slide number 9, we have seen, see, we are having three different times: compile time, load time, and execution time. If you see this logical address and physical address means it will be same in maximum cases in compile time and load time. This logical address and this physical address will be maximum same in this compilation time and loading time. It will be differing in the execution time. That is in the runtime only. This logical address or this physical address will vary the maximum. Okay. In some cases, this physical address and the logical address may vary in the loading time, but to the maximum, that address will be varied in the execution time. Okay. See here, we will see dynamic relocation. So dynamic relocation means that is by means of dynamic linking. We have already seen. So what is this dynamic linking? There is some part of a function may be linked. There is some part of a program that can be a function may be linked to the program execution only at the runtime or at the execution time. நம்ம எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ணும்போது ஆர் நம்ம ரன் பண்ணும்போது தான் ஒரு ஃபங்க்ஷனோட கண்டிஷன் நம்ம கொடுத்த இன்புட் வச்சு டிசைன் பண்ணி அதை இன்க்ளூட் பண்ணணுமா வேண்டாமா அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கிற சிச்சுவேஷன் நிறைய வரும். ஓகே, there is some subroutine or some function may or may not be added. Only it can be set only during the execution time. That is done by dynamic linking. So for that purpose, we are having dynamic relocation that is done by using relocation register. This relocation register is similar to your base register. Okay, relocation register is similar to your base register. So what is the purpose of base register? It holds the starting address of a process. Similar way, this relocation register also restores the starting location of that segment. Okay. So until that subroutine is called only, that will be dynamically linked to the program at the execution or at the runtime. So this dynamic linking is provides better memory space usage because நம்ம கொடுத்த இன்புட் வச்சுதான் அந்த ப்ரோக்ராம் அந்த பார்ட் ஆஃப் ப்ரோக்ராம் இன்க்ளூட் பண்ணணுமான்னு வேண்டாமா நம்ம பாக்குறோம். ஸோ இப்போ மெயின் மெமரியில என்ன இருக்கும்னா நம்ம கரண்டா எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ற ப்ரோக்ராம் தான் மெயின் மெமரியில இருக்கும், மற்றதெல்லாம் எதுல இருக்கும் செகண்டரி ஸ்டோரேஜ்ல இருக்கும். ஸோ நம்ம ஒரு ப்ரோக்ராம் நம்ம வந்து மெயின் மெமரியை ஸ்டோர் பண்றோம், அதை தான் நம்ம ரன் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். ஸோ அதோட இட் மே பி அ ப்ரோக்ராம் ஆஃப் லார்ஜ் சைஸ். So some part of the program only will be in main memory. The rest of the part may be in disk storage. Only upon the need, it will be brought from the secondary memory to the main memory. Okay, that is done at the execution time or runtime. So அதான் என்ன சொல்றோம் dynamic linking. So நம்ம எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ண போற ப்ரோக்ராம் எப்பவுமே எங்க இருக்கணும் மெயின் மெமரியில. செகண்டரி மெமரியில என்ன இருக்கும்னா rest of the program will be in the secondary memory. So நம்ம ப்ரோக்ராம் ரொம்ப லார்ஜ் சைஸ்ல இருந்ததுன்னா ஸோ நம்ம என்ன பார்ட் ஆஃப் த ப்ரோக்ராம் எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ண போறோமோ அதை மட்டும் தான் நம்ம மெயின் மெமரியில பிளேஸ் பண்ணிட்டு ரிமைனிங் வில் பி இன் த செகண்டரி மெமரி. ஓகே, ஸோ ஒன்லி அப்போன் த டிமாண்ட். ஸோ நமக்கு தேவைப்பட்டதான் இந்த ரெஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த ப்ரோக்ராம மெயின் மெமரியில பிளேஸ் பண்ண போறோம். ஸோ அதுவும் எப்பதான் நம்ம பிளேஸ் பண்ண போறோம் டியூரிங் த ரன் டைம் ஆர் த எக்ஸிகியூஷன் டைம். ஸோ அதுதான் டைனமிக் லிங்கிங். ஓகே, ஸோ அப்படி பண்ணும்போது நம்ம மெமரியை வந்து எஃபிஷியண்டா நம்ம யூட்டிலைஸ் பண்றோம். நம்ம தேவையில்லாத நம்ம எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ணாத சப்ரூட்டீன் எல்லாமே எங்க இருந்தா போதும் டிஸ்க் ஸ்டோரேஜ், அதாவது செகண்டரி ஸ்டோரேஜ்ல இருந்தா போதும். நமக்கு எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ண தேவையான உள்ள மெமரியை மட்டும் தான் எங்க கொண்டு வரோம் மெயின் மெமரிக்கு கொண்டு வரோம். ஓகே, So this we can, this dynamic relocation, using this relocation register, you can see it by this figure provided in the slide number 14. See, here we are having a CPU. The CPU generates an address. The address generated by the CPU is the logical address. Say here in this example, the logical address generated by the CPU is 346. CPU generate பண்ற address வந்து என்னது 346. நம்ம என்ன பண்றோம், டைனமிக்கா ரன் பண்றோம். So டைனமிக்கா ரன் பண்ணும்போது என்ன பார்த்திருக்கோம், relocation address will be converted to absolute address. Okay, for converting this relocation address, we are using a relocation register. Okay, so அப்போ இந்த address வந்து எங்க இருந்து ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகணும், ஆல்ரெடி நம்ம இந்த relocation registerல என்ன இருக்கு 14,000. Okay, so இந்த 14,000 location கூட எது ஆட் ஆகணும், இந்த 346 ஆட் ஆக போகுது. ஓகேவா? So this logical address generated by the CPU will be added to the relocation register, and that is done by means of MMU is memory management unit. The logical address physical address யாரு கன்வெர்ட் பண்றாங்க, memory management unit, that is MMU. This memory management unit holds the relocation register. Here in this example, the content of the relocation register is 14,000. Okay, so the generated logical address 346 will be added to the relocation register value 14,000. So the obtained physical address will be 14,346. See, here in this case, you are having different logical address and physical address. The generated logical address by the CPU is 346, and the address seen in the memory is a physical address. It is 14,346. How it is changed? How this logical address is mapped to the physical address? By means of memory management unit. This memory management unit holds the relocation register. Okay. Likewise, we can use this dynamic relocation using this relocation register. Next, you will see dynamic linking. Okay. So நம்ம dynamic linking என்ன பார்த்தோம், run பண்ணும்போது தான் நம்ம set of subroutines program கூட add பண்றது dynamic linking. So before seeing this dynamic linking, we'll see static linking. Static linking means the system libraries as well as the program code combined by the loader into binary program image. This program image, binary program image, is nothing but your machine language coding, that is zeros and ones. Okay. So static linking na enaduna, நம்ம system libraries and the program code எல்லாமே என்ன பண்றோம், லோடர்ல ப்ரையரா லோட் பண்ணிடுறோம். நம்மளுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ற சிஸ்டம் லைப்ரரிஸ் நம்ம ஹெடர் ஃபைல இன்க்ளூட் பண்ணிருப்போம்ல, ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் இன்புட் அவுட்புட் லைப்ரரி. So all those libraries as well as the program code have been loaded already in the program during the load time itself. லோட் டைம்லே நம்ம என்னென்ன ப்ரோக்ராம் சிஸ்டம் லைப்ரரிஸ்னாலும் சரி, நம்ம ப்ரோக்ராம் கோடிங் எல்லாத்தையும் லோட் பண்றோம். லோடிங் டைம்லே, எக்ஸிகியூஷன் டைம்ல லோட் பண்ணாம எல்லாமே லோடிங் டைம்ல லோட் பண்ணிட்டோம்னா that case is known as static linking. Okay, that is known as static linking. So in dynamic linking, that linking of library files or the subroutine, there is a program code is linked at the execution time. This linking is postponed until the execution time. So அந்த linking தேவைப்பட்டாலும் படலாம், படாமலும் இருக்கலாம். So அது எல்லாமே எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ற டைம் வரைக்கும் போஸ்ட்பான் பண்ணி வச்சிருக்கோம். So for this dynamic linking, they are using a small piece of code. That code is known as stub. Okay, the stub is a small piece of code. It is used to locate an appropriate memory resident library routine. That is we will be having a small piece of code known as stub. The stub will represent that some program code or some library files may or may not be added in the execution time. Okay, that is denoted by stub. That is for representing we are having a dynamic linking in the program execution. Okay, the stub denotes that there is a dynamic linking in the program execution. Okay, so during the execution time, the stub replaces itself with the address of the routine and executes that subroutine. Okay, subroutine or routine means is nothing but the function of a program. So நம்ம function ஒரு ப்ரோக்ராமோட ஃபங்க்ஷனை தான் சப்ரூட்டீன் சொல்றோம் இல்ல ரொட்டீன் சொல்றோம். ஓகே, so stub replaces itself with the address of that routine and executes the routine during the execution time. So execute பண்ணும்போது அந்த stub வந்து எப்படி ரீப்ளேஸ் பண்றாங்க, அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷனோட அட்ரஸ் வச்சு ரீப்ளேஸ் பண்றாங்க. அது வரைக்கும் அங்க டைனமிக் லிங்கிங் இருக்கிறதுக்குன்னு ஒரு ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்றதுக்கு there will be a stub, that is a small piece of code. Okay, so this operating system checks if the routine is in process memory address. So நம்ம என்ன சொன்னோம், so execution timeல தான் இந்த stub வந்து எப்படி கன்வெர்ட் ஆகுது, அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷனோட அட்ரஸா கன்வெர்ட் ஆகுது. சோ அப்ப நம்ம என்ன பார்க்கணும், இந்த ப்ராசஸோட மெமரி அட்ரஸ் எல்லாமே இருக்கா நம்ம செக் பண்ணணும். So operating system தான் அதெல்லாம் செக் பண்ணும். So operating system checks if routine is in process memory address. Process memory addressல இருக்கான்னு பார்க்கணும். So இந்த process memory addressல இல்லனா, so அந்த routine நம்ம எங்க இருந்து கொண்டு வரணும், process memory addressக்கு கொண்டு வரணும். Okay, this is all these things will be done in dynamic linking, that is during the execution time. So this dynamic linking will be mainly useful for this library files. There is in some program will be having some string operations. The string operation நீங்க ஏதாவது ஒரு கண்டிஷன் சாட்டிஸ்ஃபை ஆச்சுன்னா அந்த string operation பண்ணலாம்னு இருப்பீங்க. பண்ணலனா அந்த கண்டிஷன் டிசாட்டிஸ்ஃபை ஆச்சுன்னா அந்த string operation பண்ண மாட்டீங்க. அப்போ string operation பண்ற library files எல்லாம் இந்த மாதிரி டைனமிக் லிங்கிங் நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணோம்னா, library files means those files will be of considerable size. ஓகே, அப்ப தேவைனா அந்த ஃபைல் இன்க்ளூட் பண்ணிக்கலாம். அப்போ நம்ம மெமரியில சைஸ் வந்து ரொம்ப கம்மியா இருக்கும், தேவை இல்லைன்னா நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணாம இருக்கலாம். இந்த மாதிரி நம்ம மெமரி எப்படி யூஸ் பண்றோம், எஃபிஷியன்ட்டா யூஸ் பண்றது. So system also shared libraries. Shared library means that system library will be shared by many programs. For example, standard library in C program, standard input output header file you are having, that header file will be shared by all the programs written in C language, because for using this printf, scanf and all, you'll be using this standard input output, this stdio.h header file. So this is a shared library which is shared by all the programs written in C programming. Okay, the system library files is shared between different programs are known as shared libraries. Okay, so these shared libraries will be added during dynamic linking, like that we'll be having. So all these we have seen today. Now we will have a quick recap of what we have seen in today's class. So in today's class, we have seen a topic from the first unit, the structures of operating system. That we have seen about simple structure, then monolithic kernel, then layered structure, then microkernel structure, then modules. Then next, we have started the third unit, that is memory management. That we saw about address binding. That is how address will be changed during the program's life. Is during different time, compiling time, loading time, or execution time. We'll be having changing of our program address during its lifetime. So how it is changed. Then we saw two types of address. One is logical address, another one is physical address. Logical address is the address generated by the CPU, and the physical address is the address seen in the memory unit. So physical address only is the real address. Okay, then the address space means is the collection of those addresses. And then we had seen about base register and limit register. So this base register holds the starting address of the process. Limit register holds the length of that process. Okay. So likewise, we can separate that process memory is defined to that process only. For that, we have seen a hardware address protection structure using this base register and limit register. Next, these conversion of logical address into physical address is done by memory management unit. So it is nothing but a hardware which maps the logical address to the physical address. Next, we saw the dynamic relocation, just taking place in dynamic linking. Okay, this is how the logical address is converted into physical address by the memory management unit, which uses the relocation register. So all those things we saw. Next, at last, we saw about the dynamic linking. There is a library files or the program coding added during the runtime is known as dynamic linking. Static linking means during the loading time itself, all the library files and the program coding are added. Okay. This dynamic linking uses stub. The stub is a piece of code which is used to indicate that some content may or may not be included during the runtime while dynamic linking. So all these topics we have seen in today's class. If anyone have any doubt in any topic, can ask me.